The Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible in part by Techtown Detroit, Detroit's entrepreneurship hub. Techtown Detroit is a business incubator and accelerator, helping tech startups and local businesses launch and grow. Techtown supports businesses with co-working, office, meeting, and event space. They also connect entrepreneurs to resources and learning and networking events in Detroit. Techtown Detroit, Detroit's entrepreneurship hub. Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to the week that was on Deadline Detroit. I'm Craig Fahle, and here with me this week after a long holiday week, so we were not on last week. It's been a couple of weeks. Nancy Derringer is back. Welcome, Nancy.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, as
Always
usual.
A pleasure. And of course, Allan Lengel is here as well, editor and co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Thank you.
Good to be here.
It's nice to have you both. I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. We're in the midst of impeachment hearings. I don't know how I feel about this whole process so far. And I was talking to Allan yesterday. Oh, no, I know exactly how I feel about what happened. I think they've made a pretty solid case here. I just don't think a whole lot of people care.
Oh, I think that's...
I mean, there's a whole lot of people say...
Not even with arguing.
Well, now we've got to the point, though, where the only defense left for the Trump people is... Yeah, he did it, but we like him or we're afraid of him, so we're not going to do anything about it.
So we don't care. Exactly.
That's pretty much all that they have left.
Either
at
a
this
coward
point.
or a bonehead.
It's just basically nothing. He did nothing wrong. I mean, it's gone
it
from
was a
where
perfect call.
There were other people earlier on who said, well, maybe it was inappropriate. Yeah, it's a little disturbing. And now it's just... There's nothing wrong, and they're dissecting the words saying, oh, they're saying though, but they don't finish the sentence. It's not that one sentence that blows up the whole thing. It's a plot that started in April that, went for months and months. There's a lot there. We've had testimony from all these people, and they're trying to very narrowly narrow it down. And one of the things that people forget is that President Zelensky in Ukraine had asked when they talked about the Attorney General in America getting involved, he said, why don't we go through the proper channels? And they asked for an official investigation, and the Attorney General's office would not do it. So there's a lot of stuff which really points to something is wrong here.
Yeah, well, and it's pretty clear what they did wrong. Yesterday in the testimony, on Wednesday, with the four legal scholars that were up there talking about
3.5 legal scholars.
But Turley, we'll talk about Turley in a minute because it's not like he actually gave some sort of ringing endorsement of President Trump's behavior.
No, not at all.
He did it all. He's like, hey, if he did this stuff, it's impeachable.
Right.
That's exactly what he said. And he also said there was nothing perfect about that call.
Right.
That was really not a good call at all. He's like totally inappropriate. He's like, but they have to investigate more. So basically the guy supporting Trump was saying, no, you should keep digging before you impeach.
Right, exactly.
Which if that's the best you got, you've got problems.
And wasn't Turley also making a complete 180 from the last impeachment?
Yeah, right. He said Clinton was, they should go for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And this one where
get him out of
it's
there.
a greater magnitude. I mean, I think he, he's been quoted a lot over time, and he's been a talking head over the years. I think maybe he felt some obligation that he was being called on behalf of the Republicans, and he felt like he couldn't totally roll over, and so he tried to accommodate them in the best he could
without totally selling his intellectual integrity down the road.
Right.
Well, that's tough to do in this situation.
But I think all the constitutional lawyers and the woman from the professor from Stanford who was initially accused of you couldn't have possibly followed all the testimony, and she says, I read all the testimony.
I read all of it.
I ordered a turkey by mail so I could read.
And don't insult my intelligence. I mean, she went after him. She pushed back pretty hard on that. And his name's Pamela Carlin.
The reality is that the committee members have not read all the testimony. And when you talk about even Lindsey Graham, when he was asked way back, have you read the Moller report? He said, no, I didn't. And basically, I don't care.
Don't confuse me with the facts.
The less we know, the better off we are.
Right.
Well, it's funny, and I think here's something a lot of people don't understand. This quid pro quo stuff, and really what's the big deal? There's corruption in Ukraine. Of course, there's corruption in Ukraine.
Corruption everywhere.
But the only corruption he cared about was whether or not Hunter Biden was corrupt, and whether he could link it to Joe Biden.
He didn't even care if Hunter Biden was corrupt. All he wanted, I don't think he even wanted the investigation. What he wanted was them to announce an investigation.
Exactly. And
because then he would just ride that hobby horse throughout the campaign.
There's some people saying he might be corrupt in Ukraine.
They wanted a commercial snippet so they could put in a commercial and say,
or he could
Joe
talk
Biden,
about it on the trail.
Crooked. Well,
Right.
it'd be a nice
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
what
kind of
soundbite.
son does this?
What kind of soundbite?
Well,
I mean,
I liked what Carlin had to say yesterday, and when she sort of put this in terms that people can understand. And she said, imagine living in a part of Louisiana or Texas that's prone to devastating hurricanes and flooding. What would you think if you lived there and your governor asked for a meeting with the president to discuss getting disaster aid that Congress had already agreed to provide? What would you think if the president said, hey, I'd like you to do us a favor. I'll meet with you and send the disaster relief once you brand my opponent a criminal.
Right. That's a
said,
very good analogy.
Wouldn't you know in your gut that such a president has abused his office, that he betrayed the national interest?
Yep.
And that's the question. And she was looking directly at some of the people on that stage yesterday, of some of the members of the Judiciary Committee, telling them to their face, basically, there's no way that you can think that this is acceptable.
Yes, and they know that it's unacceptable. What they're saying is, we don't care. He's our guy. The hell with you. And that's what makes it kind of terrifying. Because, week after week after week, we're going to be talking about this for another year.
We're going to be talking about this probably for the next 20 years, especially if nothing happens.
Yeah.
Because I tell you this right now, if a Republican or a Democrat wins the White House, and I see another 10 Benghazi investigations or something like that, you know what? Every single one of these people,
you're right.
They're shameless.
That's the
they're
real
absolutely
danger.
shameless, because they will go down that road and they'll pretend that this crap never happened. And if we let them do that as a society, then we have failed as citizens.
well, I think the
agree.
most important thing right now is that, if Trump would say, if he had come out early on and said, you know what, that was inappropriate, I corrected or whatever, which he's never going to do, but if he were to do that,
if I was at Disneyland right now,
then there might be the idea of, okay, let's wait for the election. But the idea is that we let it go, and he continues with that behavior because he's insisting there's nothing inappropriate, and that's the danger we're at right now. And I mean, this guy is tearing apart the Constitution. He's trying to subvert the Constitution. He's trying to subvert actually the concept of truth. It's really, the concept of truth is really on trial here, and not. It goes beyond just Ukraine and all that.
Some time ago, I came up with this kind of crude image to describe what happened to the once proud Republican Party after they literally got in bed with the Tea Party. And I said, it's like you were out drinking at the bar last night, and there was this girl who was wearing this like crop top, and she had all these tats all over her body, and she really looked crazy, and you're like, I'm going to try to take her home tonight. And what do you know? But you succeeded, and you took her home. Nothing against people with tattoos. And you had passionate sex all night long. And you woke up in the morning thinking she would have let herself out at some point, but she was there, and she was going through the top drawer of your dresser, looking through your wallet, saying, you got some nice stuff around here. And then she said, do you mind if my brother moves in for a little while? Because he needs a place to crash. And Trump is the brother. The Tea Party is the girl. Trump is the brother. And
wow.
That's very sexist. I'm sorry, but that's just the way
I was talking to a guy on the bus the other day, and he said to me, Trump is our first ghetto president.
Oh.
Which I thought was funny, because he's basically saying the guy's
he does whatever he wants.
Yeah,
but
he does whatever he wants.
This is what I woke up to this morning. The first tweet I read of the day.
Okay.
From, of course, our dear leader.
Yeah.
Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
At real Donald Trump, by the way, just in case you want to be entertained every single
real.
morning for hours.
And multiple times throughout the day.
The fake news media is doing everything possible to belittle my very successful trip to London for NATO. I got along great with the NATO leaders, even getting them to pay $130 billion a year more and $400 billion a year more in 3 years. No increase for U.S., only deep respect.
Oh, yeah. That's why they were laughing
Deep
at
respect.
him.
Laughing. The other thing is I think people don't understand is there's not a pot of gold that people are putting their money into. It's basically he's asking all these countries to up their spending on they're spending on their own military, which contributes to NATO and stuff like that. But it's insane. I mean, he forgets the problem is when he's at a Trump rally, he can say anything. People will laugh. They'll embrace him. When he goes other places, he still thinks he's talking to a Trump rally, and he says stuff. It's like when he went to the UN and said, "I'm probably the most productive."
Oh, and they laughed.
And they
him.
laughed.
President, and they laughed, and he goes, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that reaction." It's like, yeah, you weren't at a Trump rally.
That's right.
You know, people at the UN weren't all wearing MAGA hats.
Gathering of the Magalos. Right.
Now, but here's where he is, though, in this whole thing. Because we've been spending the last couple of weeks, and people have been screaming from the rooftops, there is nothing to this Ukrainian conspiracy theory. There is nothing to this notion that CrowdStrike is a Ukrainian company. No, it's not. It's owned by an American citizen who happens to be of Russian descent, as a matter of fact.
Right.
But it's a U.S. company. It's based in California, which for Trump might as well be Russia. And so he's still on it. So this was today. Here's what he said. He's like, we can have a fair trial in the Senate. If you're going to impeach me, do it now fast. We can have a fair trial in the Senate so that our country can get back to business. We'll have Schiff, the Bidens, Pelosi, and many more testify. And we'll reveal for the first time how corrupt our system really is. I was elected to clean the swamp, and that's what I'm doing. So he is still clinging to this conspiracy theory that has been widely debunked. And even Bill Barr, who is bending over backwards to do Trump's bidding.
Yeah.
Even his handpicked, really rough dog prosecutor guy who's going to get to the bottom of this came back and said, there's no meat on that bone. There is nothing wrong with the investigation.
I was looking at a online discussion about this by and it was one of the parties, and it was a gentleman that I know, who I know is oriented. He can tell you what time, what day it is when he wakes up in the morning. And he was essentially pushing the whole Trump line. There was nothing there. Nothing was proven. Nothing was, if you're going to make that argument, it's not an argument for starters because it's not based on anything approaching logic. You have to be willing to say, everything that happened in the last few weeks, all that stuff didn't happen. I'm just going to insist. It's like a 2-year-old where you catch him, you walk into the room and the toilet's overflowing and they're standing there with like 10 wads of paper towels that they've been shoving down the toilet. And you're like, why did you do that? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
But I mean, the thing is, though, there's people willing to go down this road with him. Mm-hmm. I almost want to move the show to Mondays so I can just rant about the stupid crap I see on the Sunday shows. I've been taping them all so I can watch like Face the Nation.
Oh, you are so strong. You are
and,
such a strong man.
Because
I can't
you're
do
watching,
that.
they're going, well, it could have been Ukraine. No, it couldn't have been.
No.
And
they got
even
that Kennedy, the Senator Kennedy from Louisiana.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's
how
tying himself in knots over this one.
It used to be that the presidency, the Senate, you actually had like some of the sharpest, smartest people
the
in
Senate
the country.
was always the coffee. It was the deliberative body.
Yeah, and
the
now
coffee,
you have these guys. It's like, who let them through the door? Didn't they check their IDs? Or
he
what,
is from Louisiana, so let's see.
But it's just the fact that they're willing to do this kind of stuff and they're willing to basically sell their souls to not be primaried in the next election is something that really needs to be looked at because if you are not blindly loyal to this guy. Or you're just some sort of, again, sycophantic moron.
The crazy girl
that's a problem.
The crazy girl from the bar has peed on the pregnancy test, and she's got a little plus sign there. It's like that's the situation they're in, So there you go.
In for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. But
it's folks like Mitch McConnell who have realized there is no way that Mitch McConnell in private says, Donald Trump's a pretty cool guy.
No,
I mean, he sees him as, look, he can get us more judgeships. He can do, carry out our agenda. So we're going to put up with his craziness. I mean, Lindsey Graham. When you look at what these guys were saying during the campaign, in 2016 and in the primaries and stuff like that. I mean, they couldn't have said worse things about them. And I worry Mitt Romney is like. He can only hold on for so long. I mean, before he flips and says, "Okay, I'm up." I mean, he's got nothing to lose at this point. I mean, I don't know. He's in his 70s. I mean, he's got a 6-year term. He was just elected in 2018.
He's a good Mormon.
Yeah, I mean, he has not that much to lose. I mean, what if he, there's only 6 years in the Senate? Who cares? I mean, he shouldn't care.
Independently wealthy.
Well, that's not a
So.
Just, but the stuff goes on. And And you know what? I've spent my day on Wednesday watching this, and I was more angry with the Democrats than I was the Republicans. I knew what they were going to do. I knew the arguments they were going to make. And Jim Jordan was there again. Thank God he was limited to 5 minutes this time because he doesn't have the chairmanship there.
Right.
And they didn't put him in that important position. So we only had to listen to him make the same speech for 5 minutes this time instead of like 15 times last
Right.
hearings. But I was really, really upset at the Democrats because they're up there trying to talk about this is a dark day for democracy. We do not relish this role we're playing right now. My father served in the military for an America we could believe in. And I said, you know what? Just one of you needs to step up and call this what it is. Your arguments make no sense.
Yes.
You are now on excuse number 26 for this. They counted them all up in the Post today. 26 different defenses for the president's actions, and all of them have been found to be wanting.
Yes.
They do not have a grain of truth in them. So now they are down to, yes, he did it, and we just don't care. We're not going to do anything. And that's what the Democrats need to stand up and tell people. Look, they are not standing up for the Constitution. They're not standing up for anything. They're standing up for an egomaniacal freak in the White House that is playing them like a fiddle.
Not to bring up
They need to say that over and over again.
Not to
in
bring
every
up
one
a
of their
baby
speeches.
boomer cultural reference here, but this reminds me of those speeches that they'd make on Oliver would make on Green Acres about the nobility of the American family and the farm and all that. And you hear this little piccolo in the background. I just heard that piccolo just a minute ago.
But it's just, I want one Democrat just to stand up and say, bullshit.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You don't have to say the word bullshit. You can say, that's baloney. That's malarkey. Joe likes the word malarkey.
Malarkey. No
Joe
malarkey.
Biden. He's got
No
the no
malarkey.
malarkey bus out there, which is really stupid, by the way. It's like, nothing says, hi, I'm 80, like the no malarkey bus that he's
No
got out there.
malarkey and
Land to
pot,
Goshen,
and on
you
the
are
back,
right.
and in the back a sticker that says "Pot is the gateway to worse drugs.
Reefer madness
Pot
tour.
can lead to munchies."
But, I mean, you could say that. Just one person just get up there and
Right.
say, you know what, I had this speech, and I had some questions for our guests here, but since everybody else is giving speeches, I'm going to give one too. Oh, my God, are you guys full of crap?
Maybe there's
just
still
one
maybe
time.
there's still hope that
Just
might
one
happen,
time.
though.
And just say, you know what? Boom, drop the mic.
Yeah.
Hey, I realize I'm not going to be reelected. I've done my service for America
Yeah.
right here by telling everybody in the world in a speech that would get viral in about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just to say, you guys are full of it.
Yeah.
You cannot possibly believe the crap that is coming out of your mouth right now. I can see your hair turning brown because you are so full of crap right now.
Good idea.
This
I think
somebody needs to do this and just do it because this patriotic stuff and it's a sad day. Yeah. Well, you just hate Trump. Yeah, I pretty much do. The guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Any
or say
Michiganders
something
on
like
the
that.
Judiciary Committee?
Judiciary, I do not believe so.
Okay, so
we
we have
used to
to-
have John Conyers, of
Right.
course.
Yes. So he's gone.
But
now.
I'll have to check. I don't think
Okay.
so. But I watched that for hours yesterday.
Yeah.
Hours. And
You
hours.
you are stronger than I am, but go ahead.
But
It's
it was
hard.
frustrating.
It's hard to watch.
It's
at times. But the other three professors were just adamant that the law was very clear and that he had violated the law, or at least the Constitution, high crimes and misdemeanors. And Jonathan Turnley, I guess, like I say, I think he maybe felt some obligation, like, oh, they called me, they like me, I don't want to totally let them down. But I mean, as you say, it was a total contradiction to what he felt about in the Clinton years. And, the Clinton thing was, it was clear cut. He admitted it was wrong. There were Democrats who said it was wrong. They condemned him for it, but they didn't feel that it rose to the level of impeachment there. I mean, he did perjure himself. There was some obstruction issue where he tried to get, I think, Monica to change her testimony or something like that. So, I mean, those are,
you lied under oath, man.
Yeah,
That's bad.
Yeah. As a president, he violated the law. But, I mean, let's take a look at, let's just go from, if you really want to go why Michael Cohen is in prison right now, it's because he did something on behalf of the president that was illegal. He is serving time for that. That's illegal. There's the equivalent of Clinton's in thing. And then you have all, the Mueller report where there's just a list of, I think, about at least 8 obstruction of justice things. And the Republicans, I was watching Fox News this morning, don't ask me why, but
Because it's great.
yeah, well,
entertainment.
I'm just like, let's change planets here and let's go to Planet Fox. And
Planet Fox.
and one of the Congress members was saying, hey, there's nothing, he did nothing wrong. Everything's fine.
Well, and Rudy Giuliani, by the way, who I really would like to hear from, and from apparently his friend Lev Parnas, who is sitting in jail right now awaiting trial, and his lawyer's trying to get him a pardon, obviously, of something, not a pardon, but at least some immunity.
Yeah.
So he can really wants to testify about, hey, here's exactly who I talked to about this kind of stuff. Here's exactly what we doing. And his lawyer's saying, he's got everything. Anybody wants to talk to him, make a deal, and this guy will clear everything up. And
Rudy,
so Rudy's in
Ukraine,
meeting with some shadowy people who basically the entire world community wanted to get rid of from the previous administration. And some like sort of nutball politicians over there, like this independent guy who's trying to create this, this corruption-busting party in Ukraine is meeting with Rudy Giuliani. And I'm thinking to myself, how did Rudy Giuliani get out of the country? Did anybody check to see if it was a one-way ticket that he had out of the country like his buddies? Because I'll tell you what, if anybody's a potential flight risk, it seems to me that that's the guy that the FBI probably wants to stick around for a little while in the United States.
As we discussed this morning, and I don't think you were aware of, Rudy is going through his third ugly, expensive divorce right now. The woman that he left his second wife for, and of course his second wife is the one he left his first wife for, is suing him and essentially is showing no mercy. She's furious. He's apparently been cheating with somebody else.
I'm shocked.
She wants every last penny he has, and it wouldn't surprise me if you don't find him in a little while in a nice villa in Sochi or somewhere down in like the tropical part of the former Soviet Union, which is say Soviet Georgia, and just saying, I think I'm going to hang for a while.
That's why he may be in Ukraine.
It's like I got all this money in offshore accounts. I'm all right.
He may be in Ukraine shopping for a condo.
Yeah, I'm telling you what. I mean,
Kiev.
You never know.
Condo shopping in Kiev.
Kiev.
Okay, let's get out of Washington for a little bit and just talk about something weird that's going on. Ohio has a new abortion bill that they're
just a bill.
It's the heartbeat bill, banning abortion around 6 weeks into pregnancy. Now, this was the one that was introduced in 2011, but there's new ones in Ohio that now would require. There's a provision they put in there that if you have an ectopic pregnancy, which of course is when the pregnancy happens in the fallopian tube,
right,
which can be deadly.
Very much
in fact,
so.
It's really, really dangerous and really, really bad.
Right.
They say that the doctors have to somehow reimplant the embryo when they take it out of the fallopian tube.
Right.
The problem is, doctors say that's not possible.
It's not possible. I don't even know at that stage of pregnancy if you could even find it. I mean, I think it's not going to be. It's not like it's it's a fetus at that point. I mean, those things. Ectopic pregnancies start very early and complicate things very early. So, I mean, there's that. But again, let's not read too much into this. Yes, it's ignorant of science, and I'm sure the people who wrote this bill know. What they're doing is they're throwing red meat to a base that, will respond to. It'll be, either it'll die in committee or it won't get passed to the Senate or, something will happen. There's no way it's going to become law, even in Ohio, the state where I grew up, which has apparently gone down a very dark road. But, this is legislating as stagecraft, essentially.
Well, the bill also, though, has this thing about this aggravated abortion murder. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, that's when we're going to throw the doctors
which people
in
could be found guilty if they, quote, purposely perform an abortion while committing or attempting to commit kidnapping, rape, aggravated arson, aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, or other crimes. And it's a death penalty for this. But here's the best thing.
So
Imani Gandhi wrote a piece at Rewire who said, hey, show me the person that can perform an abortion while committing arson, and I'll show you a person who is remarkably good at multitasking.
I was just going to say, it's like when you're out to rob a bank, it's not like, well, watch what I can do with my other hand.
You got some gurney behind you? Hold on a second.
Well, it's kind of like the Seinfeld episode where George Costanza is trying to have sex while he's eating a corn sandwich, and I think listening to the radio or something. So it is possible to multitask.
Well, that one was pretty bad.
Yeah, aggravated abortion murder. And you know what? Here's the thing. Just once, I want to see one of these bills introduced with aggravated abortion murder, whatever, that penalizes the woman. Okay, there was like there are two victims in an abortion. It's like the little bitty baby, and of course, the mother who will have to live with this for the rest of her life. It's like everyone I've known who's had an abortion They don't really fit that profile. I mean, they basically said, yep, I want an abortion. I'm going to the clinic. I'm going to pay for an abortion. I would like an abortion, please. But they know that if they ever did that, that they would, but
yes,
you can't do that.
That's just a weird story.
It is a very weird story. I'm so sad about Ohio.
This is Michigan. I love this. Nestle, of course, was trying to get an expansion of their plant. They've been pumping water for their Ice Mountain brand out of that river up north, and it's been very controversial.
It's a well. I don't think it's out of a river.
It's a well, but it's groundwater. But either way, this is the great part. They wanted an expansion. They didn't want to have to get a permit. They thought that they should be able to pump more. Because they are, quote, providing an essential public service, is what they said.
Essential, because God knows you can't get a decent drink of water out of the tap anywhere around this joint.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Now, the state said no. The state said that is not the case, and they said do not even try to suggest somehow that you are the equivalent of tap water, that you are doing a public service. You're selling water at a profit. You're bottling it and selling it at a profit, which is not what's going on.
Last spring, I did a story for Deadline Detroit on Tom Nardone, who's just a delightful person, and his latest thing, which is trash fishing. And he basically goes around with this kid, and they pick trash out of the Detroit River along the banks and so forth. The single-use Ice Mountain type water bottle is a plague upon the earth. I mean, these things, whether you throw them out of your boat or not, they get blown out of the boat, they get dropped. It was probably 80% of the trash that we picked up that day were just those little bottles, and you realize the glory of Western civilization, with very few exceptions, including Flint, is that you can essentially turn on the tap anywhere in this country and get a safe drink of water out of it. The idea that you somehow need to drink bottled water for any reason, like health or anything else, is simply ridiculous.
Well, so they basically did not get the approval to do it. And I really think that we're on the precipice at some point of doing something about bottled water situation, because the litter from those is just atrocious.
It really is.
And it's everywhere.
Even if they just extended the Michigan bottle deposit bill to water bottles, that would have suddenly an awful lot of people would be out buying, those like coffee go cups and
refillable one,
refillable
at least,
ones. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if they really feel they need to go everywhere with a bottle of water in one hand, then they can do it that way. So.
This is a great story, and I love the fact that you guys decided to put this one on Deadline today. We've only got a little bit left, but the Fatberg.
The Fatberg.
Gross. Disgusting.
Yes.
This is Candace Miller. God bless Candace Miller.
Okay,
I
love her.
She's of course in up in Macomb County. She's not the drain
like
commissioner.
The public works,
exactly.
administrator.
But basically the person who's in charge of the water and sewer systems out there.
Right.
And they had a huge problem up there with this Fatberg. Now, they always say, "Oh yeah, it's like bacon fat mixed." You don't want to know what's in the Fatberg, but it's going to be on display at the Science Center.
A portion of it.
Well, the whole thing was like a half-mile long.
Yeah, I mean, it was the size of the Titanic.
Sounds like a name of a restaurant. Right?
Exactly.
Fatberg, yeah. They're
I'll
actually
have a Fatberg with hold the cheese though.
But I may have to go look at it.
Two
I will
things.
Go check it out.
It's people who pour grease down the drain. And, I was raised by a good cook and a really capable kitchen manager, which is to say my mother. And she would have horsewhipped me if she ever caught me throwing bacon grease down the. You just don't do that. You put it in a can or some other thing. You stick it in the refrigerator. When it's full, you throw it out with the trash. Or you use it again. A lot of people like bacon grease. Oh, and the other key factor, another ridiculous modern invention that we simply don't need, are these alleged flushable wipes that are not flushable.
No, basically they're baby wipes for adults.
Yeah, they're baby wipes for adults. They instead of a baby, they have like a couple over 50 jogging.
That's right.
on the package, or something like that.
Because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My butt's clean. I'm going to go for a jog now.
I know everybody's butt situation is deeply personal and not something that they want to talk about. But I'm telling you, as one quick story, I just got back from vacation about a month ago, and one of the hotels we stayed in, it was on the other side of the Atlantic, had a bidet in it. And let me tell you, oh my God.
You were digging the bidet?
Oh, the bidet is the best. I mean, it really, and it wasn't even a fancy one. It wasn't a separate thing.
It's called a Freedom Toilet.
The Freedom Toilet.
It's French, after all.
It wasn't even the separate fixture. This was like a hose, a warm water hose that just like came up from the floor somewhere and just was right there, and you could just grab it and it was. Oh man, I love that thing.
As long as you don't take a drink.
That's too much information.
I'm sorry if that's too much
You
information.
didn't take a drink after.
No.
But just to give people an idea of what's going to be on display, and Alan, I know this because you like to eat all the time. I'd be interested to see if this
Wait a
impacts
minute. I'm offended.
if this impacts your
I'm
appetite
offended.
at all. The display will feature pieces of a 100-foot-long glob of fats, oils, grease, and solids found in an 11-foot diameter pipe in Clinton Township. The so-called Fatberg was as tall as 6 feet in some places and was removed by workers with hand saws and shovels.
Oh my God!
What an awful job. Because what they're not telling you about solids.
Yeah.
There's
some poop in there. Yeah.
Not just that. There's every disgusting thing that people put down their toilets.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh,
yeah,
and plus
that's probably
plenty
true.
antibiotics and all sorts of other good
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah.
So,
People are always flushing
good
stuff
cocktail.
down there.
but they're putting it at the Science Center. I hope to raise awareness of this.
I hope so.
But
But they
that
should
could
put
be
it
the most
in.
disgusting thing ever on display at any museum anywhere.
Yeah.
As I said when I aggregated this piece today, they should take it on a tour of senior centers too, because I have a feeling that the flushable wipe community is generally speaking on the far side of 40. I could be wrong, but I'm just gambling.
Do we want to talk?
You're a gambler.
Do we want to talk about Kid Rock?
Kid Rock. I think
Kid Rock.
Kid Rock.
You get kicked out of your hometown, dude. Come on.
Is he 49 years old?
I think he either is about to turn 49 or he's 49. I think he is. Yeah.
And I mean, here's a guy who's, he's basically decided I made a lot of money acting like a junior high kid, and
I'm going to keep doing it.
And he's going to keep doing it. I mean, he's still making a lot of money. His fan base, it's like Trump.
They don't care.
There's going to be people who are disgusted, and there's other people who are going to be like, hey, he's Kid Rock. What do you expect? He's our guy.
What is most puzzling about the Kid Rock incident is apparently he got up. I think everybody probably knows this by now, based on the traffic those stories got on Deadline. Is he got up on stage at his bar in Nashville and began
just absolutely hammered.
Yeah, and he began like trash talking Oprah Winfrey, Joy Behar, and it was either Kathy Lengel or it might have been Kathy Griffin.
Well, it's Kathy
I
Lengel
think
because she's on that show with Joy.
Oh, okay. No,
she-
she's not on The View.
or
is
no,
she?
not
She's
on
on
The
the
View.
Today Show.
I have a
Photo.
feeling
Oh,
it's
yeah, late
Kathy
today.
Griffin because Kathy Griffin's very
Kathy
outspoken.
Griffin is a very, but
I mean,
what is
Kathy
Kathy Lee
Gifford.
Gifford up to these
Kathy
days?
Lee
other
Gifford
than
is like, who
hosting
would
the
even
the fourth hour of the Today Show?
11 o'clock in the morning. That's basically what she's doing.
I was there in Nashville. I was about 5 weeks ago or so for a conference, and for lunch on a Friday. I was looking for a place to go, and I walked by the Kid Rock place. It's like 3 stories high. It was packed with a lot of people drinking. It's like it's noontime. There's a band on stage. People are drinking. It's like this crazy.
It's a vacation town.
Yeah, it's sort of like New Orleans. It's a little bit like the French Quarter, but it also has the plasticness of Orlando.
Right.
It just doesn't really have a great feel, but he looks like he's doing well there. I mean, the interesting thing over at the the arena here is that he's not going to sign the lease again, but frankly, I don't think he was making money there. From what somebody had suggested that he was not making money there. It's hard when you're selling $8-9 beer, particularly not on a game day. The place was just, it was nothing exceptional.
Well, look, if the Illiches ever actually built the neighborhood around the arena, they might have some natural built-in customers, which would actually go to these places that are supposed to be open when there are not games and events there. But they haven't done that. Now, granted,
there is a crowd. I used to live across the street from there right before it opened, and there is some crowd there. But as you say, I mean, if they would have built up the neighborhood more,
well, they
would have
but
much
all
more
those
traffic.
places, I wonder how they're doing. I mean, during the week, I go by there. Sometimes they're not open. Sometimes it's,
Right.
Well, either
Do you
way,
think-
he's not doing his lease, so he's gone. He sold his house over by the Manoogian Mansion a couple of months ago.
His
Remember,
Detroit
he
house.
posted a picture
Yeah, sure.
of all those things with the Made in Detroit logos all over
Yeah,
the place.
yeah.
He's getting rid of this one. He's effectively leaving.
He's leaving
Detroit.
town. Yeah.
He's
him
leaving
and Jack
Detroit.
White.
And you know
Although
what? Here's
Jack
the
White-
thing.
Jack
Here's the
White at least comes back and does stuff,
Right.
and Third
Yeah.
Man and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
But-
and he wants to keep a presence here, and he's never done anything.
and he also keeps his mouth shut about stuff.
Exactly.
Well, yeah,
He keeps his
actually,
mouth
he's promoting Detroit instead of giving everyone the finger. Who
Right. Well, that's the other thing. It's like when he talks about his philanthropy, he's absolutely right. It's like, use that as a way. All it takes is just a slightly better attitude. Just don't
And
be
a
such
little
a
less beer.
jerk.
A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
less.
I'm thinking maybe this is like evidence of perhaps, I'm just going to guess, maybe some kind of substance abuse problem, but who knows?
Well, yeah, it's not sure.
It's dangerous to diagnose people from a distance, but I don't know.
After their sixth drink, it's really hard to tell.
Well, Allan, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about this because you actually had a piece that I thought was interesting. I mean, obviously with the Irishman that's out, there's again renewed interest in the Jimmy Hoffa case. Sure. Anything we post about Hoffa, I did that interview with Steve Garagiola the other day on my podcast. Got a ton of plays for that, which is great. Chucky O'Brien, who was sort of the adopted child of Jimmy Hoffa, was frankly never cleared.
Never cleared, and I mean,
his murder
from very early on. I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, Chucky O'Brien was sort of like the surrogate son.
Yeah, the other Irishman.
He was the guy. He was the gopher for Jimmy Hoffa. He drove the mob. He drove Anthony Giacalone down to Florida. I think Vito as well. But he was almost immediately picked as the suspect, as the driver who picked up Jimmy Hoffa. So for years, he's been trying to get out of that. Now, his stepson, who they had an on and off relationship, and his stepson, who worked for the Justice Department at one time, teaches law at Harvard, he decided to write a book. He renewed his relationship with his stepdad, and he wrote a book and basically
In Hoffa's shadow.
In Hoffa's shadow, and laid out a pretty good case. And I was able to talk to one of the agents who started on that case in 1993, took over, started reading all the files, and started realizing O'Brien was really not involved in this. They did the timeline. I mean, he was down at the Teamster Hall on Trumbull there, and it was almost impossible for him to have driven Jimmy Hoffa there, and he's been trying. And so at some point, Eric Strauss, the U.S. attorney, who's assistant U.S. attorney, who's still over there, head of the organized crime division there, told him, "We're going to get you a letter clearing you," because the belief was really that Vito Giacalone was the driver, that Hoffa was supposed to meet his brother Anthony Giacalone, who didn't show up. Ended up going, hanging out at the Southfield Athletic Club, making sure everyone saw him.
Lots of witnesses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm here. How can
squash.
Like Bob Bashar at the Hard Luck Saloon.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Vito was supposedly the driver there, not Chucky O'Brien. So it came this close to the feds giving him the letter, and at the last minute, Barb McQuaid, she spoke to the head of the FBI at the time, Paul Abate. And they're both very decent people, but they, Barb decided not to give the letter, and so I wrote a piece, and I interviewed the FBI agent who was on the case in '93 and for a while, and I said, should he get that letter, and he said, absolutely yes. He goes, without any doubt, and he just said, it was clear that. And he says the book is, he says, I don't know about, Chucky O'Brien's, life as a whole, but he says the part about the Hoffa investigation, he said the book is 100% accurate.
Wow.
And
there
so I wrote a column saying, hey, the guy, Chucky
time.
O'Brien, he's 85, he's in declining health, he lives in Boca Raton, and give the guy the letter. I mean, there's no evidence at this point.
And what's the harm?
It's like when I covered. I don't know how much time we have left, but when I covered
We're
the
overtime.
We're overtime. But that's right.
when I covered the anthrax case, there were clear. John Ashcroft came out and said Stephen Hatfill, a scientist, is a person of interest. They were following him day and night. They had FBI agents on him. I'm sure they had a wiretaps going, and eventually it ended up. It wasn't him. And, you have to, at some point, you get it wrong sometimes in investigations. And I mean, there were plenty of circumstantial evidence to point to Stephen Hatfill, including the fact that right after the anthrax broke out, he was a doctor as well. He got a prescription for Cipro, which was the antibiotic that they were using for anthrax. And he said his explanation was, I had a bad sinus infection, and I wrote out Cipro, which, Cipro is a legitimate antibiotic.
Wow.
Yeah. So they saw that.
For a sinus infection,
they took some dogs. He had worked at the lab in Maryland where they had used anthrax. They took dogs to his apartment building. First floor, nothing. Second floor, third floor, the dogs went right to his door. So there was circumstantial evidence there, but in the end, it was another scientist. So anyways.
All right. Well, okay, we got to wrap it up here. A couple of things I just want to let you know about. Some recommended reading for you this weekend, especially for those of you that don't really like reading long things. There is a great thing on the Washington Post website that basically is an illustrated guide to the Mueller report.
It's like a graphic novel
It was a graphic novel version of the Mueller report, and I went through the whole thing the other day, and I was like, forgot about that. Oh, yeah, that too. Oh, that's right.
It's
and you start realizing
really
that the hoax and witch
well
hunt collected a whole lot of witches along the way.
Right.
And it's pretty fascinating.
very well done.
The other thing is in the New York Times Magazine from this past Sunday, a great story that I read by a guy named Josh Owens, who said, I worked for Alex Jones and I regret it.
Oh,
that was fascinating stuff there, looking at sort of the
I
weird
started
world
reading
of
that
Alex
today. Are
Jones.
you sure that was last
what were the
week?
highlights?
Well,
What's
it's
the
in
highlights
the New York
of
Times
that?
Magazine, so
So
it'll
it's
probably
probably
be Sundays.
it'll be this
It'll be
coming
on Sundays.
Sunday, yeah. But it's on the
I read it
website
online,
now.
so
Yeah.
What's the
but that's a
Reader's
good read.
Digest version of that? What were the
Basically
sort of the high
saying,
points?
once I start realizing what Alex Jones is doing to these people's brains and
Right.
turning them into awful human beings, I couldn't be a part of it
See,
anymore.
he's just he is of a piece with so many grifters that are out there just making bank in this insane political environment.
Sean Hannity's
Oh yeah, Sean Hannity, Tucker.
he's mastered that.
Tucker
He is-
Carlson.
He's mastered that in a way that's
I want to do the
scary.
Tucker Carlson face. Can I do it?
Yeah, that's pretty good. So
Just
those of
need a
you
bow
listening
tie.
on the
We need a bow
radio,
tie.
go to the video that's going to be at DeadlineDetroit.com, and you can watch and see Nancy do the Tucker face on there while sitting in, of course, the bimbo
The
chair.
bimbo chair.
So thank you, Nancy Derringer, for being here
quite
once
all right.
again. Thanks to Allan Lengel
Thank you
as
very
well for
much.
his help. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
Michael Lucido for engineering this broadcast once again today. Quick reminder at DeadlineDetroit.com as well. At Deadline TV, we've got a new Detroit Digest coming out. I think it'll be out on Saturday, so check that out. Carlos and Sammy doing their thing. And, of course, we'll have a Zip tomorrow as well, which will be a lot of fun. Violet does a great job on that each and every week, and it's always funny, so check it out. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend, everybody.
And drive home safely.
There you go. Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization doing great stuff all around the state.